We will now move into combinational logic. There are broadly two types of logic circuits, as we all know. One of them is the combinational circuit. In these circuits, the output depends only on the present inputs. Other type of circuits are sequential circuits, where the output depends not only on the input, the present input, but also on the sequence of the past input. So there is some kind of feedback present in these sequential circuits. So a combinational circuit may have one or more outputs in general. So it may contain an arbitrary number of gates and inverters, but no feedback loops. The feedback loop. Feedback loop is a signal path of a circuit that allows the output of the gate to propagate back to the input of the gate. So such kind of feedback loop should not be there for a combinational circuit. It could have any number of outputs. When you have a feedback loop, then that circuit could be a sequential circuit instead. So there are two major analysis operations that we do. One is given a combinational circuit, we need to analyze that, and the other one is we synthesize a combination circuit. Okay, so in analysis, what do? We start with a logic diagram, and then proceed to form a formal description of the function that the circuit is performing, such as a truth table or a logic expression. So you start with the logic diagram and you find out what the circuit is doing. You analyze the logic diagram and find out what the circuit is doing by drawing your truth tables or getting a logic expression. That is called as analysis. In synthesis, what do? It is just the opposite. So you start with a truth table or a logic expression, and you make a circuit that follows that or that implements the truth table or the expression that you have got. So there are these two types of tasks that we do: analysis of combination circuits and synthesis of combination circuits. Now, in a real design problem, we usually start out with an informal thought or informal description of a circuit. We'll take some examples to understand this. And the most challenging and creative part of this circuit design is to formalize this informal description. So the challenge here is to define what are the inputs, what are the outputs, and in specifying the functional behavior with truth tables and expressions. For simple problems, it may be possible for us to directly go from the informal thought or word description to the circuit, to the algebraic expression, and from that to the circuit. This is okay for simple problems. For other cases where the problems are not so simple, it may be better to first specify the function by means of a truth table and then derive the expression from it. So from the expression, you can get to your circuit. So there are three main steps in designing such circuits. Okay, we will look at a single output circuit here. What are the three main steps? First step: find a switching function that specifies the desired behavior of the circuit. All right, find the function that is specifying the behavior. Then find a simplified algebraic expression. So you simplify your original expression, or you minimize that, and then you realize the minimized function or the simplified function using the available logic elements. So these are very straightforward steps. You find the function, minimize it, and implement it with logic elements. So let us take some simple examples. And what did we say? For simple problems, we can directly go from a word description to the output function. So let us look at this one. Rahul will pass the course only if he scores at least 35 marks and if he attends at least 75% of the classes. So there is a word description, and you want to implement this using a digital logic circuit. So what do you do here? This is what I was referring to when I say in a real design problem, we usually start out with an informal description of the circuit. And the challenging and creative part is to formalize the description. So what do you do here? Of course, this is a very, very simple statement just to illustrate the idea. So what you do here is you break down each sentence into phrases and assign a Boolean variable with each phrase depending on whether it can have a true or false value. So let me break down the sentence into phrases. Rahul will pass the course. That is one phrase. If he scores 35 marks, that is another phrase. If he attends at least 75% of the classes, that is another phrase. So I've broken it into three phrases, and I'm going to assign a variable each. So Z is my final outcome. This is the variable that I'm using for the first phrase. So Rahul is going to pass the course when Z is equal to 1. He will fail the course if Z is equal to 0. Okay. The variable I am giving here is A for this phrase. So if he scores 35 marks, A is equal to 1. If he doesn't score, A is equal to 0. Similarly, I am giving a variable B to this. So if he attends 75% classes at least, B is equal to 1, otherwise it is 0. Okay. So then I can get to the expression directly because he will pass the course only if Z will be 1, only if A is equal to 1 and this is important here, and B is equal to 1, right? So my expression is simply Z is equal to A and B, right? So the logic circuit is also obviously very straightforward. It's just an AND gate. A, B, and it, you get your Z. Okay. So let us look at another example. The alarm will ring if and only if the alarm switch is turned on and the door is not closed, or it's after 6 p.m. and the window is not closed. Okay. So you give it a try on your own, see if you can get to the circuit description for this statement, and then you proceed with the discussion that I am going to follow now. So let me separate this into phrases. The alarm will ring if and only if the alarm switch is turned on and the door is not closed, or it is after 6 p.m. and the window is not closed. Okay, so let me use Z for this one. The alarm will ring if Z is equal to 1. It will not ring if Z is equal to 0. If and only if alarm switch is turned on. Okay, so I'm using the variable A. A will be 1 if the switch is turned on. A will be 0 if it is turned on. And the door is not closed. So I will use the variable B if the door is closed, and B dash if the door is not closed. Okay, so B dash will be 1 if the door is not closed, or B is equal to 0 if the door is not closed. B is equal to 1 if the door is closed. So I'm using B dash. I could have used assigned in a different way, but I think this is more logical. So I will use B dash is equal to 1 if the door is not closed. Or it is after 6 p.m. So I'm assigning variable C for that. If it is after 6 p.m., C will be 1. And the window is not closed. So D dash, again not closed. So there is a not here. So I'm going to use B dash here. Okay. So D dash will be 1 if the window is not closed. Now I can easily get to my expression. So Z will be 1 if A is 1 and B dash is 1. So A into B dash, or that means I use plus here, or C is 1 and D dash is 1. C, D dash. Okay. So Z will be 1 if this is 1, or this is 1. Right. So that is the expression, and you can easily realize this expression by a very simple circuit. A, B dash. So you get A, B dash, which is AND gate. Then you get, so this is B dash here because we are using an inverter. This is D dash with an inverter. So C, D dash here, both are ORed, and that is your A, B dash or C, D dash. All right, so now let us take an example where we will use truth table. So there is a circuit that you have to realize. The output of the circuit, output of whatever circuit you are going to design, that should be 1 only when the number is greater than 0, 1, 1 to the base 2, or it should be 0. Okay, so you have a circuit. The input to that circuit is a number n. Okay, it's a 3-bit number. A, B, and C. A is the MSB, C is the LSB. So the output of the circuit should be 1 only when, if and only if, only when A, B, C must be greater than or equal to 0, 1, 1. Otherwise, it should be 0. Okay, so let us write the truth table. A, B, C are your 3 inputs for your 3-bit number. So you will have these 8 possible combinations, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, and so on. Okay, so if A is 0, B is 0, C is 0, A dash, B dash, C dash will be 1, right? A dash will be 1, B dash will be 1, C dash will be 1, right? So I can use A dash, B dash, C dash to take up this particular combination of A, B, C. When you get this combination, A dash, B dash, C dash is going to be 1. So if my function is to be equal to 1 for this particular combination, then I can use this term in my function. Okay, so in that way I can assign for other combinations also. So A dash, B dash, C will be 1 if 0, A is 0, B is 0, C is 1, right? So then I will have 1 into 1 into C is 1 anyway, 1. Okay, so I can assign A dash, B dash, C for this particular combination. So if this particular combination comes up, then this term is 1. And so if this term is kept in my function, then my function will be 1. In that way, I can assign for other combinations also. Okay. So now what is the requirement for us? The function should be 1 for ABC greater than or equal to 0, 1, 1. Okay. So that means for all these combinations, if in fact if any of these combinations occur, okay, if any of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any of these 5 combinations occur, your function should be 1, otherwise it has to be 0. Right? So what terms will go into my function then? A dash BC, A B dash C dash, A B dash C dash, A B dash C, A B C dash, A B C. Okay. If any of these is 1, F should be 1. So therefore my F will be sum of or of all these 5 terms. Okay. So this is the output value for the circuit. So I can write F is equal to this. You take any combination that is more than or equal to 0, 1, 1, one of these will be equal to 1, and so your F will be 1. So I can minimize this, and it comes out to be equal to A plus BC. The minimization is also very straightforward. Let me do it here. Let me try. So I have A B dash C dash A B dash C. So I can use this A B dash into C dash plus C. These two. Then I have AB again C dash ABC. So again I can combine these two, AB into C dash plus C. So what do I have? I have A dash B C plus AB dash plus AB. Okay. So again, if I look at these two, I have A into B dash plus B, which is A. So therefore I have A dash BC plus A. A dash BC plus A. So this is like X plus X dash Y, which is going to be X plus Y. So I have A plus BC. Okay. So now I minimize this, and then I can realize this very easily with gate. I would need one AND gate for this one and an OR gate for this one, which is the minus circuit. Okay, A, B, C. This will be B, C from this AND gate, and from the OR gate you will have A or B. Okay, so you realize your function. So there is another way to realize this. There is another way to come to this expression by looking at the zeros. By looking at the zeros, we see that f is 0 for any of these combinations, right? F is 0 for any of these three combinations. And so if I say this, A is equal to 0, B is equal to 0, C is equal to 0, then A plus B plus C will be equal to 0, right? For any other combination, A plus B plus C will not be equal to 0, right? So if I want to realize F is equal to 0, then obviously this term should be there. Similarly, for this one, A plus B plus C dash will be equal to 0 only if A is 0, B is 0, C is 1. And for the last one, for the third one also, we can write in the same way. A plus B dash plus C will be equal to 0 if A is equal to 0, B is equal to 1, C is equal to 0. For any other combination, this term will be not equal to 0. Okay, so now I can use this also to come to my final expression. Okay, so I have already written this statement here. So therefore, F will be 0 only if any of these combinations is occurring. If I write like this, right? So if A is 0, B is 0, C is 0, this term will be 0 and F will be 0. Or if A is 0, B is 0, C is 1, this term will be 0 and F will be 0. A is equal to 0, B is equal to 1, C is equal to 0, this term will be 0 and F will be 0. Okay, so F will be 0 for these three combinations and 1 for all other combinations. Right, so I can write F in this way also. This should also give us the same final expression. Okay, so F will be 0 for any of these ABC combinations 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 and 0, 1, 0, else it will be 1. Simplify this. Okay, I can easily simplify this. I have A plus B plus C and A plus B plus C dash. So I can easily see X plus Y into X plus Y dash. So I have A plus B here into A plus B dash plus C, A plus B dash plus C into A plus B. So this is X plus Y into X plus Z. So therefore this is simply X plus Y Z. So I have X plus Y Z. B into B dash plus C is simply B dash plus BC. B dash is 0. So I have A plus B. Same expression again after. Another way to obtain this is you use these terms. Okay, you can use these terms to the product, sum of products form, and then complement it. Okay, so if I know that if F is equal to sum of these 5, then obviously F dash will be the sum of these 3. So I can write F dash is equal to A dash B dash C dash plus A dash B dash C plus A dash B C dash. Right? If any of these is 1, then F is 0. That means F dash is equal to 1. Otherwise, F dash will be 0. Right? If any of these combinations occur, F dash will be equal to 0. So therefore, F dash is written as the sum of these three terms. So I can now take this one and complement it. Then I will get this expression. Okay. I will get this expression. You can easily see from De Morgan's laws, from PO sum of products to product of sums, you can easily transform. So what is the complement? You have OR and OR, so that will turn out to AND and AND. A dash B dash C dash, so that will be A plus B plus C. A dash B dash C, so that will be A plus B plus C. This is OR, that becomes AND. Then you have A plus b dash plus c. Okay, and the first term, which is a plus b plus c. So you can realize this expression in this way also from the complement also. Okay, so this is one example where you use the truth table to realize the circuit. Look at min terms and max terms. A min term of n variables is a product of n literals in which each variable appears exactly once. It can be either in its true form or complement form, but not both. So it's a product of n literals. If you have n variables, then min term is a product of n literals. Each min term has a value of 1 for exactly one combination of values of variables a, b, and c. Okay, and so on. Okay, if you are having a 3 variable min term, then that min term will be equal to 1 for only one combination of those variables. Need to understand, we have seen the same argument in the previous example. A function written as a sum of min terms is referred to as min term expansion or standard sum of product or canonical sum of product or disjunctive normal form. Suppose I have these 3 variables here. These are all the combinations. So the min terms will then be a dash b dash c dash, a dash b dash c, a dash b c dash, and so on. Okay, so you can check this. Each min term, let us say this min term we are taking. This will be 1 for exactly one combination. Okay, this will be 1 only if a is equal to 0, b is equal to 1, and c is equal to 0. For all other combinations, this min term will be equal to 0. Okay, this point. Now, if you are going to write a function as a sum of min terms, okay, so I have a function which has some values. Okay, so let us say function is 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so suppose this is my function. Then you can write the function as sum of these min terms, right? Because the function is 1 if this min term is 1, if this min term is 1, this min term is 1, and this min term is 1. So if any of these min terms is 1, the function has to be 1. So I'm going to write my function as sum of these min terms. Okay, and that is going to be a unique representation. For any other combination, the function has to be 0 because any other the other min terms are not there, and for any other combination, the min terms that are present are 0. So therefore, if you are going to write the function as a sum of min terms, that's going to be a unique representation. So how do I write the function here then? Function here will be a dash b dash c plus a dash b c dash plus a dash b c plus a b c. Right? Now the notation is, I mean, every time you need not write the variables like this. A normal, a quicker notation is to write the min terms using the symbol mi. Okay, each min term in row I is written as mi. Suppose this is in row 3, right? Row 3. I'm going to number rows from 0, 1, 2, and so on up to 7. So if I'm going to write like this, this is row. So this min term a dash bc is written in short form like m3. So mi is my notation. So therefore, for my function, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just write that function is equal to, let us say it is m1 plus m2 plus m4. Okay, so I'm just going to write in this form instead of writing the entire variable. This is also written as a sigma, sum of the terms, right? So sigma m of 1, 2, and 4. So this is another notation. You can write your function in this particular notation as well. So a function which is sum of min term expressed as standard sum of products or a min term expansion will be unique, and this is the short form. So let us look at the this discussion in a few statements here. Here is an example. This function is written as sum of min terms. So this min term is m3, this min term is m4, this min term is m5, this min term is m7. I can also write this as sigma M3457. If f is equal to 1 for row I of the truth table, then mi must be present in the minterm expansion, because mi is equal to 1 only for the combination of values corresponding to that particular row. Right? For other combinations, mi is 0, so obviously if f is equal to 1, then mi has to be present there in the function. So this is the example that we have here, 3, 4, 5, 7. So f is 1 for any of these, and so all of these should be present in the expansion. Clearly, we have a one-to-one correspondence, and therefore this minterm expansion will be unique. We can now look at max terms. Minterms are what? Minterms are the products of variables, right? Products of n literals. So max terms are just the sum of these literals. So a max term of n variables is a sum of n literals in which each variable appears exactly once in either true or complemented form, but not both. Same definition, but instead of product, you have sum. Each max term has a value of 0 for exactly one combination of values of that variable, of the variables a, b, c, and so on. So we will take some examples. A function written as sum of max terms is referred to as max term expansion, standard product of sums or POS form, canonical product of form, sums, or conjunctive normal form. Okay. These are various names. Okay, so what are my max terms now? If my variables are a, b, and c, these are the 8 combinations possible. And so the max term is what? Each max term has a value of 0 for exactly one combination. So if my variables are 0, 0, 0, then the max term will be a plus b plus c. Right? It is easy to see this is equal to 0, a plus b plus c is equal to 0 for only one combination of a, b, and c, where which is a is equal to 0, b is equal to 0, and c is equal to 0. For other combinations, this is going to be equal to 1. You can take any max term and you will see that it will be 0 for one combination. For minterms, what are you having? It will be 1 for only one combination. A minterm will be 1 for only one combination. A max term will be 0 for only one combination. Okay, so one can also see that each max term is the complement of the corresponding minterm. So what is the minterm for, let us say, M3? M3's minterm is A dash B C, right? M3. So you can see that A dash B C, the complement of this is A plus B dash plus C dash. You can use the De Morgan's law. So each max term is a complement of its minterm, or each minterm is a complement of its max term. Let us take an example. This is my function. Okay. So you can see that the function is 0 for M2, 0 for M3, 0 for M7, right? Therefore, if any of these max terms, okay, so capital M is used for max term, right? I forgot to mention that. So capital M is used for max term, small m is used for min term. So now, if any of these max terms is present, the function has to return to a 0. So f has to be 0 if either M2 or M3 or M7 is present. So clearly, you can write f as product of M2, M3, and M7. Okay, so therefore, if any of these is present, if any of these is 0, then f will be 0. So this is the example here. F is equal to a b dash plus a plus b dash plus c, that is M2. This is a plus b dash plus c dash, so that is M3. This is a dash plus b dash plus c dash, which is M7. So I can write my function as M2 into M3 into M7. It is 0 if any of this is present. Otherwise, f is 1. So this product is written in this form also, is the pi symbol, sigma for sum and pi for product. So it's pi, capital M, and whatever minterm row numbers are there, 2, 3, and 7 in this particular example. Sorry, max sum. So if f is equal to 0 for row I of the truth table, then mi must be present in the maximum expansion, because mi is equal to 0 only for that particular combination of variables. Similar to your minterm expansion, it is easy to see that the maximum expansion is also unique for a function. Okay. Okay. So suppose you have these variables and these are my minterms, and let us say my function is this. Then in terms of minterms, what is the function? Function will be sum of all the minterms. So it will be m0 plus m1 plus m4 plus m5 plus m6, right? So 0, 1, 4, 5, 6. Sigma m 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 is the function. It will be 1 if any of these minterms is present. Let me list the max terms here. Now, these are my max terms. I can see that f is equal to 0 if there is m2, there is m3, and there is m7. All right. This is small m0, small m1, small m4, small m5, small m6. Sorry, I erased this. So now I have max term giving me f is equal to 0 for m2 into m3 into m7. Right. Therefore, I can write f is equal to product of max term 2, 3, and 7. Now you can easily notice now whatever row numbers are here, they are not here. Right. So if you have one form of representation, you can find the other form of representation by simply putting those rows which are not present in the first form. Now, it is also easy to see that if f is equal to 1 for the sum of these combinations, f is equal to 0 for the other one, right? So, therefore, f dash, if I'm going to write the function f dash will be what? 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, right? And therefore, f dash is equal to 1 for those minterms which were 0 otherwise, right? So, f dash is equal to 1 for m2 plus m3 plus m7. So, whatever rows are missing here, if I write them as a sum of minterms, then I will get f dash. This is also straightforward to understand. So, I can write f dash in terms of the product of max terms also. Sorry, product of sums also with max terms. So, in the same way, I can easily see that f dash is equal to phi of capital M0, capital M1, capital M4, capital M5, and capital M6. Okay, right. So now with this example, we can write this general statement. If mi is not present in the minterm expansion of a function, okay, then capital Mi will be present in the maximum expansion. So 2, 3, and 7 are missing here. So therefore, they have to be present in the maximum expansion, and vice versa. Thus, a given minterm expansion of an n variable function f in decimal notation, a minterm expansion of an n variable function f in decimal notation, the maximum expansion is obtained by listing those decimal integers not in the minterm list. Okay. So, sorry. Okay. So now let us write the statement for the complement also. Because f dash is equal to 1 when f is equal to 0, because f dash is equal to 1 when f is equal to 0, the minterm expansion of f dash contains those minterms not present in f, right? The minterm expansion of f dash was containing those minterms that are not present in f. So here it is 2, 3, and 7. So f dash will be equal to sum of the minterms that are not present in f. So that is what we have already written here. So these are the three statements, and we can easily understand them by looking at this example. So this is written in a table form here. If you have a given form of function as a min-term expansion, and if you want min-term expansion of f dash, what do? You just list the min-terms that are not present in f, right? If you want the maximum expansion, you will put the max terms that are not with with those numbers that are not in the min-term list. Similarly, if you are given a maximum expansion, you can get the min-term expansion by listing those numbers that are those min-term numbers that are not there in the maximum list. And you can get the expansion of f dash by listing those max terms not present in f. Okay, I can also get the maximum expansion of f dash from min-term expansion, or the min-term expansion of f dash from the maximum expansion of f. So it's very easy to do this conversion. Now let me look at a product of two functions. It is easy to see that if I is not equal to j, then mi into mj is equal to 0. Right? If I is not equal to j, then this min-terms product will be 0. So suppose I have two min-terms, m4 and m6. Okay, so this is my mi and this is my mj. So what is m4? 4 is 1 0 0, right? So a b dash c dash, m6 will be 6 is 1 1 0. So a b c dash. So because 4 and 6 are not equal, when you take the product, there will be at least one variable which is having both complement and normal form, true form and complement form, and therefore the product will be equal to 0. Therefore, if I is not equal to j, mi into mj is equal to 0. You can take any other example. You'll always find, as long as I is not equal to 0, there will be one or more variables where you will have both true and complementary forms, giving you a product of 0. Now, let us consider the product of two functions now. Okay, so each function is, let us say f1 and f2. So f1 will be sum of some min-term, and f2 will also be sum of some min-term. Now, okay, so maybe if I should not write I and j. Let us take an example. Let us say this is m of 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is sum of 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. Now, if I'm going to take the product of these, I will have 0 into 1, 0 into 2, 1 into 4, 2 into 6, sorry, 0 into 1, 0, 2, 0, 4, 0, 6, 0, 7. Similarly, plus 1 into 1 term, m1 into, let me state it more clearly, m0 into m1, m0 into m2, m0 into m4, and so on. m1 into m1, m2 into m2, m3, m1 into m4, m1 into m6, and so on, right? I will have so many product terms. And you can easily see that because in several of them, I is not equal to j, right? Here I is not equal to j, I is not equal to j, I is not equal to j. All these products will be 0, right? So only those terms will be there where I is equal to j when you take the entire product here. So only those, like you will have 1 1, which is common, that will remain. All the other products with m1 will be 0, m1 into m2, m1 into m4, m1 into m6, and so on. So therefore, I will have, when I take the product, only these two terms which are common, right? M1, M2. Rest all will be 0. Okay. So note that all of the cross product terms, I is equal to not j, drop out, so that f1 into f2 contains only those min-terms which are present in both f1 and f2. Okay. So here is another example. If my f1 is equal to sum of these min-terms 0, 1, 4, 5, 6, and f2 is equal to sum of min-terms 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, then the product f1, f2 will be sum of min-terms 0, 0 is common, 4, and 5. these are the only ones common. So I can get the product of two functions very easily. Okay, so let us take some more examples. Find the minterm and maxterm expansions of this function. F of a, b, c, d is equal to a dash into b dash plus a d plus a, c, d dash. So how do you go about this? One way, of course, is to write the entire truth table of all combinations and see where is for what minterms the f is going to be 1, and take the sum of that. The alternative way is to first write the expression as a SOP and then introduce the missing variables in each term by applying the theorem. X plus x dash is equal to 1. Okay, so I have to first write the expression as sum of product. Okay, so I do the expansion. These are the sum of products. Then what I do, whatever variables are missing in each term, I will put them by using this theorem. So what is missing here? AB. This is a function of A, B, C, D. So C and D are missing here. So I will put C and D here into this term by multiplying it with C plus C dash into D plus D dash. Similarly, I will put what is missing here, B and C. So in this, I will multiply with B plus B dash into C plus C dash. Here B is missing, so I will multiply this with B plus B dash. Okay. Then I will expand it to get all the minterms. Okay. This is what I've done. I'll put these missing variables using this theorem. I'm going to expand them. I'll see if there are any common terms so that I can cancel them out. So I have this term which is common, so one of them can be removed. And also this term is common, so one of them can be removed. And therefore I am left with these terms. So these, I know what are my minterms. So this is corresponding to a dash, b dash, c dash, b dash. So obviously it is 0, 0, 0, 0. Here it is a dash, b dash, c dash, d, 0, 0, 0, 1, and so on. So I can get the minterm expansion. Now, once I get the minterm expansion, I can get the maxterm expansion also. How do I get that? Whatever row numbers are missing, I will put them for my maxterm expansion. So this is 4 variables. I will have 0 to 15. So what are missing? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is missing, 5, 6 is missing, 7, 8. 8 is missing, 9 is missing, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15. These are all missing. So therefore, this function is also equal to phi of all these maxterms. Okay, so that is what I get. Now we can get the complement also very easily. So what is f dash? In terms of minterms, it will be all these numbers, 4, whatever are missing, right? 4, 6, 8, 9, 11, whatever are missing. Or f dash is also equal to phi of m of all the numbers that are missing here, which are these numbers. Okay, I can put them here, so I will get the f complement. All right. Let us take one more example. Again, we want to find the minterm and maxterm expansions of the function. This time what we are going to do is we are going to use the maxterm first. So an alternative way of finding maxterm expansion is to factor f to obtain the product of sum. Introduce missing variables. Okay, introduce missing variables in each sum term by using x dash is equal to 0 and then factor again. So this is my function now. First step is to factor this function. I can write this. This is factored like this. So what did I use? What is the if I take this as x? Sorry, let us take this as x, y. So this will be x dash. This is z. This will be dash is z. So xy plus x dash z, that will be simply x plus z into x dash plus y. Right? You can check it. Let me expand it. If I expand this, what will I get? X dash plus xy plus yz plus x dash z. X dash is anyway 0. Now, if you look at these terms, you can see that yz is the consensus term. Right? Xy plus x dash z, yz is the consensus term. So I can remove that and I will have xy plus x dash. So I can use this theorem to factor it like this. Okay, so I have x plus z into x dash plus y. Or how did I write this? How did I write this? This is x, this is z. And this is okay. So sorry, this is right. X. So I'm getting confused between x and x dash here. So x is a dash. So x is okay. So here is a, it is x dash. So this is y, this is z. So I have expanded it. Now I can continue to expand, continue to factor this. I know that x plus yz here. So this is in the form of x plus yz. X plus yz, how do you factor it? X plus yz is simply x plus y into x plus z, right? You can easily verify x into x plus x into y plus x into z plus y into z. So this is x into x plus y plus, sorry, x into x plus y plus z plus yz, right? Or x into x is anyway x, which is x into 1. So I can write like this: x into 1 plus y plus z plus yz, which is x plus yz. So I can continue expanding using all these theorems that we have seen earlier, and I can factor this function to the desired form. So I have factored this, and what will I do? Whatever is missing, that missing variable I will introduce by using x into x dash. So I will add x dash wherever the variable is missing. So this here a dash plus c, b is missing, so I will add bb dash, and d is also missing, so dt dash will be added. Similarly here b and c are missing, so I will add bb dash and cc dash. Here c is missing, so I will add cc dash, and then I will expand. Okay, during that here I see that one term is repeating, so I can simply remove one term that is repeating. These are the 4 terms. I can expand and I will get all the max terms. Okay, so the corresponding row numbers can be easily obtained. So this is a dash b c d. We are talking about max term, so this has to be 0 for the one combination of a b c d. This will be 0 when a dash is 0, b is 0, c is 0, and d is 0, right? So that means this will be 0 for a is equal to 1, b is equal to 0, c is equal to 0, d is equal to 0. So a dash plus b plus c plus d will be 0 for 1 0 0 combination, which is m 0 1 2 3, I think this is 8, and so on. So further also you can list, and so you can get your max term form. So once you get this max term form, you can get the min term form also. Whatever numbers are missing, row numbers are missing, you put them and you get the min term form. All right. So okay. So now let us take a useful example, more useful example. Sum of 2 binary numbers. So if the numbers are a and b, these are the 4 possible combinations. So the sum will be 0 plus 0 is 0, 0. I'm using 2 variables for sum. Okay. Let them be x and y. So each digit will be represented by this variable. So x and y. 0 plus 0 is 0. So I'm writing 0, 0. 0 plus 1 is 1, 0, 1. 1 plus 0 is also 1, 0, 1. 1 plus 1 is 1, 0, 1, 0. Okay. So what is x then? So what are my min terms? Min terms are m0, m1, m2, m3, right? So therefore x is simply m3, right? It is 1 for only m3. So x is equal to m3. y is equal to m1 plus m2, right? So therefore x is equal to what is m3? M3 will be 1 only for a is equal to 1, b is equal to 1. So m3 is equal to ab. M1 plus m2 is, what is the min term here? M1 is a dash b, right? A dash b plus m2. M2 is a b dash, which is nothing but a XOR b, right? So therefore, you can get x and y by using an AND gate and an XOR gate. Okay. Now we will use the min terms and max terms for a 3-digit addition. So here what we say is, this is sum and this will be carry. Right? When you are adding 1 and 1, what do you get? You will have sum as 0 and carry as 1. Right? So this is carry and this is sum. You got expressions for carry and sum for a 2-bit case. Let us now look at a 3-bit case. Oh, okay. So I have these. Yeah. So x is equal to ab, y is equal to ax or b. So now let us take a case where you're adding two 2-bit numbers. Okay. So here I'm adding two bits. Here I'm adding 2 numbers, each number with 2 bits. So I have 3-bit case. Okay. Output is having 3 bits then. So let's say input numbers are n1 and n2. Output number is n3. N3 is equal to n1 plus n2. So I can write my truth table now. 0, 0 plus 0, 0 is 0, 0, 0. 0, 0 plus 1, 1 is 1, 1, right? So if I'm writing x, y, and z, it will be 0, 1, 1. Okay, and so on. So I can keep on adding. So 1, 1 plus 1, 0 will be 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 0 with a carry of 1. So 1, 1 plus 1, 0 will be 1, 0, 1. Like here. So x is equal to 1, y is equal to 0, z is equal to 1. So in that way, I can write the entire truth table. And the truth table will give me the min terms that are required for each of these functions. So x will be sum of min terms, this min term, here, 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 here. So all these will be there in the min term expansion for x. Similarly, you can get the min term expansion for y and z. Okay. So now you have 4 variables, so I can put the row number from 0 to 15. And I can write the min term expansion for x, y, and z for a adder line. Okay, so now these min terms and max terms can be used to prove the validity of an equation. We have earlier talked about the procedure to look at the validity of equation. What are the rules? What is allowed? What is not allowed? Now you can use the min term expansion to show this. Why? Because you know that the min term expansion for a function is unique, right? So therefore, if you want to show LHS is equal to RHS, all you need to do is show that this function and this function have the same min term when you expand them. Okay, so expansion is easy, right? You can get all the min terms. How do you do that? All you need to do is put all the missing variables here in using the equation x plus x dash is equal to 1. Same thing you can do here, and you can list all the min terms. Okay, so if both sides have same min terms, they represent the same function because min term expansion is unique. So a, b, c, b is missing here. So I will put b into b dash. Here a is missing, a plus a dash. Sorry, not b into b dash, b plus b dash. Here a is missing, a plus a dash. Here c is missing, c plus c dash. So I got all the min terms. This is 0, 1, 1, 1, sorry, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, and so on. So I know what min terms are there here. M3, M1, M4, M0, M7, M6. I do the same expansion on the right hand side. Whatever variable is missing, I put there. Okay, I will get all the min terms, and I can see that what are the min terms present here. So 0, 0, 1, which is M1, 1, 1, 1, which is 0, 0, 0, which is M0, and so on. So I can see that both of them are equal. M3, M3, M1, M1, M0, M0, M4, M4, M7, M7, M6. So both sides are equal. Okay, so let us take one more example and then we'll stop. Design an error detector for 6311 binary coded decimal digits. Okay, so what is the error here? What is the condition here? The output should be 1 if and only if the 4 inputs represent an invalid combination. Okay, so whenever you get an invalid combination, your circuit should give a value of 1. Otherwise, it should be 0. Okay, so you want this circuit with minimum number of gates and literals. So you want to minimize the output to reduce your hardware cost. So that is your design problem now. So what is 6311 code? 6311 are the weights, right, for your BCD. So you can see that the code like this, code can be written like this. If you want to get a value of 7, then 7 will be 6 plus 1. So I'm using this combination 1001. This is what is given to me. I could have used 1010, but in the list that is given to me, this is an invalid number. Okay, invalid code. So 8 can be 6 plus 1 plus 1. So therefore it will be 1011. 9 will be 6 plus 3. So it will be 1100. 1100 and so on. Okay, so if there is any ambiguity, that is removed because these numbers are given here. For example, 4 I can get 0110 or 0101. Right, both are possible, but 0110 is not there here in the code. So any ambiguity is removed because the code is listed for you already. Now you need to detect your error detector from this. So you need to design your error detector from this given code. Okay, so output should be 1 or whenever you get an invalid combination. So you have 4 variables. List all the possible combinations. I have listed all of them here. What are valid combinations? What are the invalid combinations? Your function has to be 1 only for those. So this is invalid. This is invalid. You can check or compare both of these and list all the ones which are invalid. So I have invalid here, 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 and here. So what are my minterms then? M15, 14, M13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay. So these are my minterms. If any of them appear, function has to be 1. So function will be sum of all these minterms. 2, 6, 10, 13, 14, 15. Okay. You do the minimization. I'm leaving this exercise for you. You can do it. And when you do the minimization, this is what you get. CD dash plus ABD. Okay. And so all I need are an AND gate for this one, another AND gate with 3 inputs for this one, and an OR gate to add these 2 terms. So this is my circuit that I have to design. Okay, so with this example, what do we have next? Okay, so we are not having any quizzes. What can I do? Okay, so what I do is, this is not the quiz question. I'm leaving this as a homework problem. Okay, this is your homework problem. You can do this and submit it at the end of the course. All right, thank you.